Warm-ups can be just as overwhelming as building a full program or workout, and that is because you have so many options. This video should give you some parameters to follow and ideas to pull from whether you're a coach or a trainee. I'm Annie Miller, and I help you learn as you train and enjoy your lifts again without asking you to figure it out for yourself. And I help coaches build sustainable and data-backed online health and fitness businesses without selling your soul to vanity metrics. If that is you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button because I release content every Tuesday. So why warm up? First, you can decrease the risk of injury, you prime the muscles and the nervous system for the day, and you can get your mind right. So tune in with how things feel so that you can make the best decisions moving into your lifts. Heyo, I just had to pause the video for a second because I created a free warm-up builder. So if you are looking for a way to generate warm-ups for your clients, including the general warm-up, the movement prep, and how they can best prepare for their main lifts and their accessory work, then go ahead and snag it for free in the description below. Again, it is a free warm-up builder just for you. Do you currently do any kind of warm-up before your lifts? So any kind of general warm-up, or just go in and do warm-up sets before your actual lifts? Let me know down in the comments below. Today we are going to go through a blood flow warm-up, a general warm-up, movement prep, and actually doing warm-up sets for your lifts because all of these things matter when we're talking about warm-ups. First things first, we need to transition from life into intentional movement. Most people are pretty sedentary. I am very sedentary. Thus, let's get the blood flowing at a faster rate. That brings us to your blood flow warm-up. That's 5 to 7 minutes or until you begin to sweat and literally feel warmer. That could be shorter than 5 minutes. That could be longer than 5 minutes. We're going to do this through any kind of cardio. So treadmill, bike, stairs, rowing, jump rope, any general movement that's gonna get your heart rate up. Once you do that, you'll move into what I refer to as your general warm-up. This is your full body warm-up. I have my clients do this every day, no matter what they're lifting. If you're asking why, it's that tune-in factor. How do things feel overall? Are you sore from past day's training? Are you feeling extra good today? Doing the same short warm-up daily, in my opinion, gives us a baseline to compare to day, and it should only take 5 minutes. In theory, you could technically pull just the upper body pieces of this general warm-up or just the lower body pieces and do them on your respective upper or lower body days. So now we're actually gonna go through what my kind of general warm-up is. You're gonna do 5 to 10 reps of each of these. You're going to start off with the quad walk, which is for the quads. Just to pull your leg behind you, you want to stand up really straight and keep a tall spine. You should feel the stretch in the front of your quad and maybe some of your hip flexors. You'll hold for 2 to 3 seconds, take a step forward, and do the other leg. Then we have the knee hugs with a glute stretch. This is pulling the leg up high and externally rotating that upper leg, which should give you a glute and maybe some adductor stretch. Then we have the Cossack walk, which is going to hit the adductors. You're going to rotate from side to side as you're stepping forward. You could also just do this in place, sliding from one side to the other. And then a cat-cow. You can feel free to segment this as well, focusing on just the lumbar spine or the thoracic spine. That's the lower back or the mid and upper back. And then you'll transition into what I call the greatest stretch. We have stretching the quads, the hip flexors of the back leg, and a bit of adductor of the front leg, as well as your T-spine. It really is kind of a full body stretch. And then still as a part of the greatest stretch, you will hit the hamstrings and calves once you straighten that back leg and sit the hips back. You could easily tack on more to this, but you should feel pretty good after those 5 different exercises. So once you finish your blood flow and general warm-up, you will go into movement prep. This is specific to the main movements that you are doing that day in your lift. So we have active mobility and priming the muscles used this session. You are working on common limitations, and for me, this typically includes core. For all of these possible movement preps that I'm going to share, you would be doing just 1 to 2 sets of each exercise, depending on time and need. I really see no purpose in doing more than that. This is not your workout. It is simply prep for your workout. There is so much room for play here, again, why it can be overwhelming. Let's start off with some lower body examples. For a squat day, you are working the quads and the glutes for the main muscles, and then we have triple flexion at the hip, the knee, and the ankle for the actual movement pattern and joints that need to be warmed up. Now, these are all just examples. You can do whatever makes sense. There are literally thousands of combinations that one could use to prep for a given lift. Your goal should be to do, as I said earlier, think about the muscles used and the joints or the movement patterns that need to be prepped for the day. So for this squat day, we could do Bulgarian split squat rock backs. These are possibly one of my all-time favorite warm-up, rehab, prehab style exercises. I was first introduced to them by Active Life RX. Be sure to check them out if you've never heard of them. They are raising the standard for coaching professionals and have been for years. I highly recommend you look at them if you never have. You could then do something like a loaded Cossack or weighted bottom goblet squat. So where your Bulgarian split squat rock back warmed up your quads and hip flexors, something like a loaded Cossack is going to get after your adductors and also your glutes, getting you into those end ranges. So that is something that you could add after the Bulgarian split squat rock back. And then rather than anchoring the triple flexion that I talked about earlier at the floor or the feet, you can work that triple flexion anchored at the hip, which most people should do more of, in my opinion. And that looks like a standing or supine hip flexor knee raise, banded or with monkey feet. So you are going to stand or lay on your back and simply pull your knee to your chest, bending your hip, knee, and ankle. That covers your squat day. And then for something like a hinge day, you are looking at the muscles of the glutes, the hamstrings, and the back, and then the hinging pattern for the movement and joints. We could start with something like a single arm deadlift. This is going to prime our hinge pattern, our upper back, and our core due to that offset loading. And then do something like a single leg RDL or a hip airplane. Single leg or unilateral options are really great for addressing imbalances that you might have, or just being sure that both sides are tuned in before getting into your lift. I am doing the airplane assisted because balance is the limiting factor for me, but I want my hips to be mobile and warmed up. And then lastly, you could do something like a banded dead bug. These are simply here for some core work because, as we know, in these large compound movements like a deadlift, we need our core to be nice and primed and warmed up. And the banded dead bug, or really any dead bug variation, is going to be a great option for working your pillar strength while your limbs move around the core. Now for some upper body examples, we're gonna look at the horizontal focus. This could be push or pull. For that horizontal day, you could do something like scat push-ups from the elbows. I prefer doing these from the elbows versus the hand because when it is on the elbow, it mitigates any rotation that we could be having in the upper arm or the humerus. Then you could move on to something like band pull-aparts. These are great for mobilizing the shoulder and opening up the chest. So you'll find that most upper body warm-ups are going to, yes, warm up the muscles of the upper body, but also really focus on mobilizing the scapula, which is your shoulder blade. Band pull-aparts happen to be great for any upper body day, but are particularly great for horizontal pressing and pulling. Then you could do something like a side plank row. Again, you could really do any core here, but with this exercise, we are getting core specific to the obliques, and we're actually avoiding rotation and flexion, so really challenging the core with this exercise. Plus, with the side plank row exercise, you are getting some row warm-up, moving the scapula on the pulling side while stabilizing the shoulder on the supporting arm. Now for more of a vertical focus day, again, pressing or pulling, we could do something like a lat pullover. This is going to get after the lats, as the name implies, but from a mobility standpoint, really letting gravity do the work and pull those hands down to the floor. You're gonna feel a huge stretch along your lats and maybe even your long head tricep. You could follow that up with, again, something with the scapulas, like a scap pull. This is gonna be vertical. So again, we're mobilizing the shoulder blades, but also practicing setting and controlling the shoulder blades in a vertical downward pulling motion, which is going to be beneficial for any vertical pushing or pulling day. Lastly, for your vertical pressing or pulling day, you could do something like a prone Y raise. This is gonna be less scapular mobilization and more end range mobility for that shoulder. We have external rotation and a bit of adduction or abduction, depending on the width of your arms, and of course, shoulder flexion. Once your movement prep is done, you'll technically begin your lift. That is where warm-up sets come in. Your warm-up sets are actual sets that you use in the exercise that you are performing for the day. These may or may not be needed for one or more of your exercises. I suggest doing them for heavy compound movements. I'd say if your working sets are at over 70%, then it warrants a warm-up set or two for that exercise. The number of warm-ups needed will increase with the demand of intensity of of your working sets, meaning the number of warm-up sets that you actually need will increase with the demand of the intensity of your working sets. And for those warm-up sets, your weight jumps will get incrementally smaller the closer you get to your working sets. For example, if your working set for a back squat is going to be 200 pounds, then you would hit just the bar or 95 pounds and then 135, 155, 170, 185, 190, something like that, maybe even up to 195 in prepping for that 200-pound working set. Your volume will likely decrease as that weight increases. So you might do 8 at 135, but then only be doing 2 or 3 reps once you get up to that 180, 190, and closer to your working set of 200. Hopefully that makes sense to you. If you are currently doing a program and it does not include all of these types of warm-ups, I suggest you leave and get a free week of Built by Annie, because this is exactly what we take our clients through inside Built by Annie, which is my signature 12-month remote strength and hypertrophy training program. And again, you can get a free week in the description below. I hope you enjoyed these educated gains, and I'll see you guys in the next one.